Hey guys, welcome to something a little different today. I've had some requests to stream some of my work and development. Some people want to know what's involved, some people want to know how they can do it themselves. So I'm going to take us through one of my projects, and hopefully I can answer some questions. Hopefully maybe somebody can give me some tips and pointers to make this a little easier. And otherwise, hopefully some of you will enjoy the video. First thing I want to do is get rid of this pesky cube. Not actually using it. I'm going to get rid of the lamp. But I do need something to light my workspace. I like using Hemis because I'm not doing any rendering work. I just need light, and they really light up the entire area well. So I'm just going to add a couple here real quick. Rename them so they're out of my way. And now we can get to work. Alright. So first, looking at the ship, it looks a little small. Kind of about the dimensions of my mouse cursor is where we want it. So maybe about twice that size. About there's good. So 1.5 times out there. Make the fine attachments. I could actually lower that. Looks good enough for me. I'll reset the rotation and scale and everything later. Actually, while we have just a few parts, that might be a good idea to do it now. Alright, so that looks like the cockpit glass. Now, the naming convention is really important. It has to start with NMS underscore. Otherwise, the exporter will not treat it as content for No Man's Sky. It'll just ignore it in the export. It might even cause some errors. Now, it's important each part has one material. I don't believe the material has to be named the same as the part, but I'm just being consistent. The diffuse and specular settings don't really matter. You're going to be setting those in the material files. However, the exporter will export the diffuse values into the material, so I guess it does kind of matter. I don't think that there's anything to show behind the glass, so there's no reason to make it transparent. I take that back. There's a cockpit in there. Alright, so if there is a cockpit in there, I can make the glass transparent. But do I want it non-proc? No, I want it proc. And we're just going to copy paste that. Alright, Alright, sorry. So now we can kind of see the ship, the interior, and the glass will be transparent. It will be proc color if I can manage, but it looks like it's going to be white, so it's just going to be clear. It's going to be difficult to figure out where in that texture that cockpit glass is sitting. So I can do this. Just remap it. And it's still white. This takes a little trial and error. This is the only way I know how to texture right now. Like I said, I hope some people can give me pointers. Just so I can see what kind of area I'm working with, I'll do this. And it looks like I want to go in the upper left corner. That's where the blue is. And now by setting the glass blue, I can change the material so it changes to procedural colors. And then that way every time the ship generates, it may be blue, it may be red, it may be purple, green, yellow, whatever. And now the glass will match the color change. Now I can't have the same material for the glass as I do the hull, otherwise the glass won't be transparent. I can't believe I did that. Materials is where I want to be. There we go. Again, the specular doesn't matter, but I just set it out of habit. So now we got the ship and the cockpit glass as two separate materials, and ready to move forward. Name this part the hull, because, well, it's the main hull, right? Jacob, welcome. Thank you for coming in. As far as I know, you can open the texture in a new window, unwrap the model, and move it around on the texture. I have kind of played with that a little bit, but for some reason the texture comes up only on the lower left corner of my screen, and if I can't get all of the model in there, it doesn't work quite right. Yeah, and since having done that once, I haven't been able to figure out how to do it again. Not sure where this material is. Okay. Not sure why that material's different or special. I'll name that guns for now because it looks like it's gonna relate to the gun. But I think I'm gonna make that a glow and duplicate mirror both sides. Alright, so next I want to do is separate the different parts for the different materials. That's fortunate. Sometimes the select more or less does more or less than you want it to. I got lucky there. Alright, looks like I've got all the green stuff. I'll move it up 5. Duplicate the part. Oh, Jacob, I also wanted to apologize for yesterday. You were talking about the random ship spawner, and while I was intrigued in that, I found out my microphone was mute. So you couldn't even hear anything I was replying to you. So now that we got the parts separated, I can separate the materials. Oops. Alright, I'm not really feeling this song too much. I wish there was a next button on YouTube. Just do some basic touch-ups real quick. Want to move any doubles, clean up the mesh, make it smooth. And then that way I don't have to do that with a bunch of parts after I duplicate them all. And normally I would double up glass, but I don't think we're gonna see through this glass at a different angle. Maybe. Okay, I'll double it. Duplicate, flip direction. No. What? Duplicate. There we go. Okay, flip direction. Why is this? Oh, that's why. No. Okay, so if anybody can explain to me why I'm flipping directions on the normals, but they're not actually going the opposite direction. Okay, they are. Never mind. I see it. And then I want to duplicate the pod, but not the gun. And I want it in a different part. make that a glow. Now, do I make the glow procedurally colored, or do I keep it static? I am going to go procedurally colored. And transparent. And then I need to duplicate that pod over on the other side. Brilliant. Bit backwards. I'm going to actually rotate this piece. So I'm going to label it rotate clockwise, and then its counterpart will be counterclockwise. Okay, I want this one clockwise. And I want that one counterclockwise. No. Alright. Now each of these pieces, I actually only want to rotate the top half, because looking at the material, the top half looks like it could rotate, the bottom half looks like it should be static. So I'm going to duplicate each one. I can join those and remove the tops. Leaving the bottoms, and then I'll put the bottom back on the hull after I delete the parts from hull. Alright, there we go. I can remove the bottoms. And then I want to set the orientation for the rotating parts. So we're going to go origin to geometry. So now I can tie the entities to each part, and the entity will rotate on the origin for that part. And they'll rotate in place, counterclockwise and clockwise. This is looking like it's going to be a bigger project than I thought it was going to be with all the hoses and everything. I definitely feel like doing my plasma stuff, and that texturing definitely takes a little more time. But you guys are up for it. I'm going to be doing it anyway, so if you want to stick with me for the long haul, that's cool. Next thing I want to do is make this glow just a little bigger, because I'm pretty sure right now it's the same size as the original mesh, and I don't want any overlapping. I want the glow to be on top. And I want to be able to give it enough room that the rotation of the part doesn't break, ruin, or distort the glow, if that makes sense. Okay, that looks good. Shoot. I don't think I paid attention to how big I made that scale. Oh well, I can just mirror it. This one doesn't matter so much because the part's not rotating underneath it. And mirror it. There we go. Now, guns needs a new material. I believe it's still just using the same file. Yep. And if it's using the same file, I can put it on the same material. It doesn't need to be two separate ones. So there we go. So at this point, I mean, the ship is pretty much ready to go. I'm just adding extra stuff. All I would really need to do to get it in game is add the locators and put everything into a scene. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. I want to create an empty scene. We're going to name it No Man's Sky Scene. That name is very vital. If you don't name it that, you won't get these No Man's Sky scene properties. The batch mode, don't compile to mbin, action triggers, that sort of thing. If you don't have that, it's not going to be able to export into No Man's Sky. I'm going to add another locator. This one I use for procedural purposes. And I'm going to name this TeckMach. This is going to be a locator. It's not a mesh, collision, reference joint, light. So I specify locator and put it where I want it. And now everything else will go as a child to that locator. The locator is not necessary. You can make everything a child of the main scene if you want. Again, the TeckMach is just for my purposes. Next thing you want to do is make a collision file. So you want to take the main shape of the object, duplicate, rename, No Man's Sky, collision, mesh, and the part name that it best relates to. Collisions do not need materials, but they do need UV maps. I do, however, remove the default UV map just so after I make a collision I can assign a new one. Don't think it has anything to do with anything. I'm just being thorough or superstitious or something, you know. And then we're going to convex hull. And this is pretty much how the game builds the collision model for the ship anyways. I could do it more refined. I could follow the lines of the ship, but the game's still going to make it like this. So just keep it simple, make it easy for the game to work with. And then after I do convex hull, I will do a limited dissolve just to reduce the amount of faces. Alright, so we got the collision done. We're ready to export it as a scene, but the game needs some way to tell the game how to use the file. We need the interaction points. We need to tell the game where the cockpit's going to go, where the jet trails are, the shooters. So we need a lot more locators. I'll go ahead and add the first locator. This will be the interaction. This is when you target the ship, you see the E and the name of it or whatever. This is that locator, and I'll put it right there in the glass and name it Inter. I'm going to rename this later in the file to match the locator name that it does need to be, which is Interact, just like that. The reason I'm not naming it like that now is the exporter will auto upcase the name, as well as I'll have to rename it anyways. So I'll name it W-Inter so it can go at the bottom of the list, and I can keep my locators all together at the bottom. And drop it in as a child, and that's set and ready to go. I also need a couple more points at that same point, so I'm going to move the cursor to that point, add a couple more locators, and name them appropriately. We have Interact and we have Interact Origin. Then we have Cockpit POS, which I'm not sure what POS stands for, but we all know what POS stands for. I'm guessing it stands for position in this case. And the last one is the crash effect. I'm not quite sure what the crash effect does, especially since the glow effects are based on the cockpit interior, not the exterior. So I don't know what this does, but I've always put it just because it's always been in every ship file I found. I kind of set it front. Like I said, I'm not sure if it has something to do with the reentry or if this is supposed to be where the ship is supposed to simulate breaking apart or crashing into the ground. But I kind of make it as such. If anybody has insight on what that actually does, please let me know. And that is the crash effect locator. So we've got the 4 cockpit locators created. We still need the inventory and the 2 maintenance slots. The maintenance slots are the icons for the general and the technology inventory sections that you see in the user interface. So the inventory I'm going to set back a little further than where it's currently at. And because I make my inventory the last node in my file, I name it with a Z initially. And again, like I said, I go back and change the name inside the text file when I'm working on it. Now the maintenance locations. I'll start off with a Y because I want them to go before the inventory, but after all the other locators. And then I want to move them. Put that one there. That one's going to be the general, and this one's going to be the technology. So I'll put it back towards the engine. I'm going to move the cockpit position back a little bit, just because that's where the space map gets drawn, and sometimes the space map shows up outside of the ship in photo mode, and that just looks nasty. Alright, so we've got the maintenance locators, we've got inventory, the 4 cockpits. We're just deficient of the trails and the shooters, the gun and jet trail references. So to best place that, I'm going to go ahead and select the guns. And put the cursor there. Create a new one, and that's going to be my shooter point. It looks like this. Yeah, that's good. It looks like this ship only has 1 gun, so I only need 1 shooter. Actually, let's do this. Just double check real quick, make sure I made all these locators. The exporter will throw an error if you don't have stuff set properly. And now we have 3 shooters. That feels a little better. Even though they're all going to originate from the same spot. That's right, I said originate. 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 So that looks like we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 jet trails on the back end, and they're all going to be scaled different sizes. Damn. Alright, so limited dissolve's not an option. That kind of sucks. But this section, I think I want to have a little bit of a glow. So I'm going to try to take it out. And put it in another part. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate the part as a whole. Go back to the original and delete the faces that I've highlighted. And go to my new part and duplicate the faces I highlighted. And I'm going to move them away so I can use this. Delete the rest of the stuff I don't want and put everything back. I'm going to name this Engine Glow. And I do need it to have its own material. And then we're just going to assign it to the same texture. But this way I can make this material glow, and the rest of the material, all the other materials will just be regular opaque. It'll basically, the black doesn't glow, but the white will illuminate, and it should make that stand out. And then also, now that I've sectioned off those, setting the trails is going to be a little easier. And I don't want the trail to be right at the edge, because you'll see some glow over clip and whatnot, so I'll tuck it back. And now we shouldn't actually see the blue glow, but it should still shoot the flames out and have a jet trail when it's in motion, in theory. 2 more to go. I'm going to put them both right there because I'm just going to double it, or mirror it rather. Okay. Now trails are set, shooters set, all the locators are set, we've got collision. All in all, this model is now ready for export. The textures are done. After export, I would have to touch up the materials, make edits to the scene file, wrap everything together, and test it in game. So, I think I'm gonna call this quits right here for now, but I will be back to do part 2 of the ship, where I'm gonna play with the hoses, add my plasma glow, my trails, and stuff like that. Should take a good few hours to get through that process, but I would like some company, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching.